Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing really well. This is Heine speaking from BSGV. Thank you so much for joining us on what is our second webinar. So if you log onto our YouTube channel or any of our social media platforms, you'll see that we did a previous webinar where we interviewed Dr. Jacques de Prieur, who has a PhD in virology, and he gave us a bit more information with regards to COVID, what it is, and how to go about things as we progress into this new normal. So, yeah, the subject for today's webinar is something that came over many years, and something that myself and Dirk Hamann, my business partner, developed, and we're really excited to share this with you. So first of all, as I said, my name is Heine Tiart. Studied at the University of Stellenbosch. Went on into the automotive manufacturing, into a metal pressings plant, where I was basically responsible for improving the business. It was single machine based, but a lot of logistics around getting the parts from raw material straight through to the customer. Had many successes in that field. Felt comfortable enough to start my own business called Blue Sky. We used to operate mainly in the Cape Town region. Managed to get a very big contract within the Bidvest group. And in 2015, Dirk Hamann, my business partner, joined us. And since then, we've been contracted out by international consultancy, working I want to say worldwide, but mostly East and West Africa, as well as China. Just implementing basic implementation structures to assist businesses in their journey to become world-class, reducing wastes, making sure that we utilize every aspect, every resource to make sure that we don't sit with the same problems year after year after year. So that's me. Dirk, if you can just give us a quick intro about yourself.
Thank you, Heine. All right, guys, my name is Dirk Hamann. I studied at Cape Town University and did my BTech in industrial engineering. From there on, I worked for a warehousing and logistic company. From there on, moved on to Atlantis Forge, where we manufactured crankshafts. I was an industrial engineer on one of the lines there, ran improvement initiatives, and worked very closely with an improvement facilitator back in the day there. Then I went back to warehousing logistics again, started off as a manager, making sure that all the logistics functions was running properly. And then finally ending up with Heine and the guys at Blue Sky, where we did some work locally, as he discussed, and then hit off quite a big contract and did international work for about 3-4 years. All right, thanks, Heine.
Yeah, so just to give you a brief history of the company. So founded as Blue Sky in February 2013. Did local work, started working internationally 2015. And just recently we did a small rebranding. So we refer to ourselves as BSGV now. It's also the name of our website, www.bsgv.co.za, where you'll be able to find sort of the mixture between the old and the new. And yeah, it's been 7 years going on into our 8th year. It's been an amazing journey so far. And I mean, the whole purpose of this thing is just taking what we've learned and bringing it to the South African market, even internationally, at a much more affordable rate than what they might be used to. So, seeing as we are, how can I say, people of efficiency and trying to make your business more efficient, we are going to go into our agenda, and we are going to discuss this thing that we have managed to develop, and what we have called your 12-week business improvement challenge. And through that, we challenge businesses to take focus over 12-week periods instead of 12-month periods. Why? Because targets are usually set on a yearly basis. companies only actually start working on them 6, 7, 8 months down the line. So what's the use of having those first 6, 7, 8 months? The purpose of the 12-week business improvement challenge is to make sure that we stay focused, we set smart goals, we keep the priorities where it's supposed to be, we pull the correct people into the process, and we solve real relevant problems immediately. So that's what led us to this. And so we're just going to be talking through the agenda, a couple of days that we're going to be spending on site, and how we're going to support you from there on. So we're going to just look to spend about 2 minutes per agenda topic that we sit with. So the agenda will be available at the bottom in the video information section. So yeah, we're going to try and keep it as efficient as possible. So first and foremost, because any implementation revolves around the support from senior managers, we're going to start off with having either the owner, the plant manager, the managing director, the supply chain director, whoever, give a strong opening statement with regards to why we are tackling the 12-week business improvement challenge, why they have decided to get BSGV in to support them. Then Dirk and myself will go through the process of introducing the 12-week process to the team, as well as the tools that we use. So those 2 tools that we mainly use are things derived from the 12-week year, as well as tools from Gemba Academy. So we will always give credit where credit's due, and those are 2 of the most influential factors that helped us form this 12-week challenge. After that, we go into what's called A3 thinking. That's a process where we teach the management team on how we will be managing the projects, how we'll be managing progress, and so forth. Then we move on to the leader's role in the change process. We have a fantastic course that we deliver called the Kaizen culture. Now, Kaizen, obviously a Japanese word. A lot of things that we do is derived from the Toyota production system, because they are the best. The discipline towards solving problems, the discipline towards becoming better and better, you do not get much better than them. So after looking at the role that the leaders play in the process, we take them through the 7 deadly wastes. Okay, what are the wastes that's pulling down your business? We do that analysis through a process that what we call the basic Muda analysis. Now, Muda is the term for waste in Japanese. We then discuss some of the foundational projects that we would highly recommend the company take. Those foundational projects are workplace productivity, visual meetings, and practical problem solving. We then take them through what's called a loss perception. So as I indicated earlier, we do a basic Muda analysis. So the loss perception is a small, quick brainstorming session with the head of department, senior management, just to hear what their perception of the current losses in the business are. It's always fun to have a look at the actuals and compare that with what the perceptions of the senior management were. And then lastly, we take them through a process where we prep them for our first step of our basic Muda analysis, and that is called the stand and look exercise. And that is actually where we just take the managers onto the place of the business end, where the production takes place or whatever. We have them look, observe, ask questions, and so forth. So that basically sums up the first day. So Dirk, if you can just take us into the second day.
Thank you, Heine. So once we walk into day 2, the leaders and managers has gone through some training with regards to how to identify waste in their environment, showing them obviously the examples, what to expect, what to look out for. We'll take them to the factory floors where we'll have some check sheets given to them that's going to guide them to look out for very specific stuff that they can identify that we see as losses. As Toyota, a very good example where this originated is typically where an owner or a manager of a factory line would go down to the factory floor. That's part of his normal daily routine, and he needs to be standing there for half a day just taking notes, speaking to the operators, trying to find out how they can help them, and to give them some input, and so they can start eliminating waste. And it also gives them a very, very good opportunity to start learning and learning the environment, and know what's going on. Thanks.
All right. So just on top of that, we aim to spend about 30 to 45 minutes with each leader on the shop floor, where we just make them stand in that circle. So day 3 and 4 will consist of Dirk and myself starting off with the basic Muda analysis, where we review the current production and downtime data. So any data that the company has available, we will be deep diving into heavily. We'll be asking questions. We will be ensuring that whatever projects we choose based on the Mudas that we picked up within the business is in fact accurate. Okay. So after making sure that we collect the correct data, we're reviewing the correct data, we will start getting in touch with the financial department, making sure that we can somehow quantify these losses. Because if we can see that we can not only save a time value, but we can save a monetary value as well, then the drive just becomes so much stronger. So obviously in today's day and age, the company or the competitor that can achieve the best quality product at the lowest possible cost is, how can I say, in the pound seats for being the most successful. And that's usually what we try to do with this. We try to link that financial aspect to it so that people can actually see the amount of money that they might be chucking down the drain. And then just lastly, in day 3 and 4, we have some interviews with senior management, head of departments, other leaders within the business to make sure that what we found within the data is actually confirmed by them. If they pick up something that they don't necessarily agree on, then we'll have to check it again to make sure that we are actually covering the things that the businesses would want to have solved. So yeah, so that's two full days that we spend on that basic Muda analysis. So then moving on to day 5, Dirk, if you can take that for us.
Okay, so once the guys have compiled that information, they would get it in a nice structured format where they can present that back to the team. It's very important that the information is used to identify what projects to focus on, because through this analysis, it will be very clear as to where the major losses is actually lying within the business. And by focusing on the ones that's contributing the most would be the first areas to start building projects around. So through that then, we can obviously look at KPI indicators, for example, machine availability, OEE is an example, some financial losses, it could be environmental losses, but in general, we would look at the areas which gives us the best opportunity to make impact. Okay, so then we structure the projects, we identify the leaders, and then we start training and educating the project leaders and the coaches for these projects in order to run them successfully.
Right, so just as Dirk indicated there, the project leader and the coach. So for each project that we launch, we will have a leader, which will more than likely be a middle to higher level employee. But then we also have coaches, which will sort of be the senior of that person, someone that can oversee the project, make sure that it is on time, that it stays relevant, that the actions are being done in a timely manner. So the coaches are usually there to break barriers, things that the leaders might not be able to have the authority for to address within the business. That's where the coach steps in and takes a hold and start managing that through the process. So moving on to day 8 and 9. So as you can see, there's a gap between 5 and 8 and 9. So it's just to show that there will be a 2-day gap that we will not be on site. But moving on to day 8 and 9 is where we will take the project leaders through the training, and that's a training that that comes from the Six Sigma School of Six Sigma. It's also available on the Geba Academy. but that training is called the DMAIC. So it's an acronym, and it stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. So that's about a 1 3/4 day workshop that we take the guys through, or the project leaders through. It's mostly focused with regards to how do you go about really understanding a problem, getting down to the root cause, and then implementing improvements, and to make that sustainable. So just quickly summarize, we show them how to do that all within a A3 format. So tune in for our session where we discuss the A3s for you to learn a bit more. And then we assist all of the project leaders to set up their A3s. Okay. Then the last quarter of the second day would be spent on the role of the project coach. We also coach the project coaches on what their responsibilities are, where they would need to be jumping in, when are we going to be escalating certain things to them, and so forth. So after that, we go into the training of our foundational projects. So as we mentioned in the beginning, our foundational projects are practical problem solving, 5S, workplace productivity, and visual meetings. So Dirk, I mean, what do you love about the practical problem solving?
Okay, so the good part of the benefit of the practical problem solving is that there's a very good connection between what's going on the shop floor and the problems they're experiencing, and middle management and finally senior management. So there's usually a very big gap between that. So this workshop typically would take the team leaders and middle management through a very practical workshop where they would experience problems on a daily basis, which they'll identify, and then they'll take it through a very structured approach in order to resolve these problems. So instead of problems reoccurring on a daily basis, they will be identified and they will be solved and hopefully not return again. Yeah.
So, I mean, as Dirk said there, it's just solving those things. Many businesses still sit with the same issues that they've sat with for years, with no structured format to actually solve these things. So the structured problem solving, or the practical problem solving, is definitely one that's yielded a lot of benefits just by having it implemented for a matter of a week or 2 or 3. So that will all happen on day 11. That's a full day of training that we take the guys through. Then day 12 goes over into the 5S workplace productivity. Now, some of you might be familiar with the word 5S or housekeeping or whatever. You might even have the 5S's posted somewhere on your wall. But the reason for us believing that that's a foundation is that, as the guys at Toyota say, if you can't even implement 5S, a basic tool such as 5S, then you won't really have the discipline to do anything else beyond that. So it's sort of as a thing that we put out there as a test. So how well the sites usually do the 5S will give us a very good indication of how the rest of the projects will be going. Remember, 5S is all about safety. So not only are we keeping the place organized, we're keeping it neat, we're keeping it clean, but we also keeping your environment safe. And obviously with new COVID things, all of the new regulations coming into place, 5S becomes even more critical because of that link towards the occupational health and safety. And then just lastly, I mean, day 13 of the first couple of days we will spend on site, we come to visual meetings. So once again, another full day workshop where we take the teams through setting up visual meetings for the team. So because it's foundational projects, we will only keep it focused to a pilot area. So very small beginnings, but the impact of doing something extremely well in a very small area or in a very small department will help the rest of the company, senior management, decision makers, see the benefits of having KPIs up on the wall, seeing information being displayed properly, the correct use of colors, the way that you'll be able to just walk past a couple of graphs and be able to immediately see whether it is going good or bad for the last 24 hours, depending on how relevant and how recent your data was updated. So Dirk, then we move on to from week 3 on to week 12, how long the projects progress, depending on what we decide. We come in for supporting the project leaders and project coaches. So I mean, what does that entail?
Okay, so usually what happens is we get the people rolling with their projects, and then as soon as they start working with all the templates, with all the new material that they're going to use to implement these foundational projects, they'll need some coaching and assistance in order for them to expedite this process to make sure that they're on track. So it's a very good way of making sure that all the participants has taken this knowledge that we've taught them, and they really understand how to apply that in the workplace.
All right. So yeah, I mean, as Dirk said, we coach, we teach, but some of the times people are, or most of the times, people are very excited. They feel like they do have a grip on what's to come. But as the reality hits them, they sort of but starstruck. They don't really know how to continue, although they seem very excited within the training. That's why we come in every week for either a 1 or 2 day coaching session with all of the project leaders and coaches. So just popping back to the fact that I mentioned full day sessions and so forth. So it's training that we offer, derived from the Gemba Academy School of Lean. And that's a process where we have phenomenal interactive videos. We have interactive trainings that we take the teams through, where they end up coaching themselves and the other teammates. So that's the tool that we use in order to deliver our training. All of our training comes from there. And yeah, I mean, just since we've had the opportunity to have some questions sent through to us during the course of this webinar, I'm just going to have a look if we've received anything. We've obviously had some questions coming through from the website as well. So we have a question here coming from one of our participants asking, how much time would senior management spend on or be a part of the 12 weeks? Well, fantastic question. I mean, senior management, as I indicated right in the beginning, they are the be all and end all of this thing. If we just have a management team that's going to be there to catch the shine, well, then we obviously know where this 12-week is going, what it's going to result in. So the senior managers, not only are they taken through that process, that first day and the 5th day where we go through the training, the Kaizen culture that I mentioned, and the return of the basic Muda analysis results. There'll also be, many of the senior managers will be project coaches to make sure that they are aware of what's happening in projects on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So they'll be in the thick of things. Now, time-wise, all depends on how well they are able to manage their time. Remember, we do have project leaders that will be responsible for the projects, but they will have to make 2-3 hours available a week on this. And my question is always, if people object to that, is if you want to continue sitting with the same problems, then be our guests. But if you want to make a real difference within your business, then you need to be allowing your managers to make that impact on the business. So just along with that, something that we didn't really speak about today that we'll speak about in our next session is the 12-week parallel stream that we will be running to get the managers completely aligned with the change process. We're going to be looking to build some capability within your senior management and looking at some coaching aspects, daily management, and so forth, to make sure that we really have fantastic managers to bring the best out of the people in the middle management and on the shop floor. So I hope that can answer your question. Second question that we have over here is, do we only do one 12-week cycle and finish up, or how does this thing continue? Okay, so the question is, do we only do one 12-week cycle and then we move away? Of course we don't. So Dirk, if you can just maybe answer that for us. We'll never only do one cycle.
No problem. Okay, so once the guys have gone through one 12-week cycle, the guys have gone through this process once. As they go through it, they're still new to the process. They will get their savings, but it's only applicable to one area that the guys have identified where they want to apply the 12-week cycle to. So once they're happy and have implemented that successfully, they can identify new areas. As you can imagine now, there's a new teams, there's new people that's going to be involved there. So there'll be the same 12-week cycle that we will repeat with the guys. And they would take that training and further develop their people within those areas.
So the foundational projects, are you meaning rolling out the foundational projects to different areas, eh?
That's correct, yes.
All right.
And then just once the guys have completed that and they're happy that the areas are up to speed with the foundational projects, we do have other projects that we roll out, and they also go through 12-week cycles. And the first one being maintenance fundamentals, SOPs and works instructions, and then single-minute exchange of dies, which is the changeover and setup time reduction workshops that we train the people to help them to reduce their changeover times.
All right. So thanks, Dirk. So all of these things will be discussed in detail when we get to that. So over the next 12 weeks, we'll be breaking up our agenda, deep diving into each day or each agenda item in detail to make sure there's a good understanding about what we're on about. There's a last question that just popped through. So quite similar to the first one, how much time would senior management spend? So the next question is the time required by project leaders and coaches. So I think I've touched on the fact that our coaches will have to, I won't say spend a bit of time, but if you just look at the governance side of things, is they'll have to make at least time for a project leader for 1 hour a week. We'll have governance meetings where we have status updates of all of the projects. They'll have to attend that. So in my mind, and what we've seen in the past, it's about 2 to 3 hours a week that they'll have to make available for this. And then the project leaders, well, that all comes down to the decisions that's made by the senior management in the beginning of this thing. So obviously, we do understand that there's a business to be run. We're not going to tell you that leave everything just for these projects. But what we do encourage teams to do right in the beginning of this thing is to decide on time allocation. I've had some companies that say we want 50% of all of our project leaders' time to be spent on the projects. Now, what happens to their other responsibilities? Once again, it's a process to delegate those responsibilities to other people during this time. I've had companies that say we only want 30 or 20% to be allowed for project leaders to do that, to do the projects. Ultimately, it comes down to the decision that is made by senior management, and then to stick to that, to make sure that we actually free up our project leaders in order to focus on these problems that's costing so much money, that's costing so much time. I mean, don't want to elaborate too much on this, but it makes me think about one project that I did for a company that they've been sitting with for over a decade, the issue. I don't have the correct amount of years that they sat with the issue, but I've gotten, the years that I've gotten was 18, 15, and 12 years. So that's those from the 3 longest, how can I say, employed members of the company in senior management. That was sort of the time frame that I've gotten. So, I mean, if you're sitting with a problem that you've been struggling with for 15 years, I'm sure allocating 50% of a project leader's time in order to solve this thing will definitely reap the rewards, because you've been experiencing these losses for the last decade or so. So there are some more questions that have come through, but in the sake of staying efficient, we're going to cut that off. We'll come back to that in our next session. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll be aiming to do about 2 of these webinars every single week. nice and bite-sized, usually over a lunchtime period, where you can join in, just pop in your headsets or headphones. You'll be able to listen to us. Zoom is also available on a mobile version, so you'll be able to just plug in, put us in your ear, and have a listen. If there are any questions, feel free to put it in the chat box, or mail it through to us, or log it on our website under the 12-week business challenge. But yeah, all in all, I mean, Dirk, I think we gave a good indication of what the 12 weeks will consist of. Is there anything that you would like to add there?
I think it's worthwhile to move to the 12-week cycles. I think that's where the value lies. I think we all know that in the end, it's the daily actions that you take and implement within your business that does make the difference. And making sure that the plans are not unmanageable, making sure that the guys stay on top of it, and that will give them the savings.
All right, man. Hence also answering the question that we don't only do one 12-week cycle. We continue to the next and the next and the next to help increase that savings and to help solidify the sustainability of the previous cycle. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll pop through new meeting notifications the moment we have them, but also be sure to find our meeting notifications on all of our social media platforms, LinkedIn and Facebook. All of these things are posted on our YouTube channel as well, so be sure to catch us over there. But yeah, have a blessed evening, and we'll catch you again. Cheers, everyone.